Okay, Catherine, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. We will call to order the meeting of the Accessibility Advisory Committee for April 8th. And welcome everyone. It's a wonderful day out. And so I hope that you can get out for a few minutes after the meeting and just enjoy things. We have a presentation today on the Queen's Park reconstruction. Now we did get quite a bit of detail around the architectural renderings. I had a bit of a hard time understanding it, so I'm hoping that we can have a good explanation. I wasn't the only one. I'm really glad to hear that because I did have a tough time with it. So this is going to be James. Is James going to present here, Cheryl?
James is still having a difficulty. There's two James. James
on.
Hunt and James Black. So James Black keeps getting kicked off. It keeps freezing. So he just messaged me. He's trying. He's A for effort. He's really trying. So
I see him.
He's getting kicked out. So I don't know what to do. But he just sent me another message and it says that he just keeps getting kicked out. So Tammy, do you have any suggestions?
Oh, he's on here now.
Is he there? Maybe
Perfect.
He's there now.
Okay, James, we were just saying that you're having a really hard time. So hopefully crossing our fingers that this works for you. Oh,
James?
Did we lose him again? No,
he's there. We might have yeah.
James Black, are you there? Can you hear us?
I think he's having a hard time at his end.
Oh gosh.
Can you hear us?
I don't think he's connected to the audio because it would show
he said he's gonna restart his computer. He just said he said give me 2 minutes. He's gonna start his computer. So maybe not to, in the interest of time, not to put James Black on the spot, but I'm certain, not James Black, James Hunt on the spot, but I'm certain James Hunt can introduce the topic. If you would be so kind, just to let everybody know what the reconstruction project is about, what the scope is.
Yeah, for sure, of course.
Thank you so much, James.
Thank you, James.
No problem. So the scope of the project is the limits are from Sophia Street west, from Ross Street right to Bayfield Street, and then Mary Street and Maple. It'll be from Wellington to Sophia Street and just a little bit past Sophia. It'll be complete road reconstruction. All infrastructure will be upgraded, curbs and sidewalks, and it'll probably be installed with all tactile plates meeting OPSD standards.
Yeah. That's a huge range.
It is.
Yeah, it's a pretty big area. The grades aren't changing too much. And I noticed that some of it on Sophia Street, it is pretty steep, some of the driveways. We are trying to fix some minor grading issues. And it will be a better product when it's all constructed. I'm not too sure what else would you like me to talk about?
I think that's okay for now, because we're still hoping that James Black will be able to join us. In the immediate,
he's trying again here.
Okay, excellent. In the immediate, before James joins us, does anybody have any questions about that scope, the scope of that project for James?
It seems huge geographically. That was my first impression. And I know others didn't really have a very good understanding.
There we
go. Hey, James.
So,
How's
hi,
that
James.
working?
I
Hi, I'm on
told
my
him
phone now.
I told him he had to
Oh,
have his
gosh.
camera on for at least a little bit to you guys. So
Thank you,
so
James.
we're putting
Appreciate it.
him on the spot here.
Yeah, that's okay. I've got a nice shirt on, but I've got shorts on.
Oh, well,
It's so nice outside.
well, we just in the interest of time, we just had James Hunt introduce the scope of the project, just so that
Okay.
we could just start. So he just basically mentioned the streets that are going to be worked on as part of the reconstruction, and he indicated that the grading probably won't change too much. However, you are working out some issues on Sophia Street for some concerns there. So with that, why don't you just take it away and or introduce yourself, tell us who you are.
Sure.
You're relatively new to the city, and then we'll just get on moving.
No problem, no problem. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to share my screen when we get to that point because I'm on my phone right now. And my computer still says restarting. So,
That's
but to jump in,
everything was circulated. Just so you
Good.
know, everything was circulated to the committee ahead of time.
Good.
So they have seen it, but they can also follow up with additional peeks at that after the fact.
No problem, no problem. Okay, well, I'll get right into it. As you know, you guys probably heard, my name is James Black. I'm the project manager with the Linear Infrastructure Group, City of Barrie. So some of my responsibilities are I manage a design team and construction as well. So one benefit that I get to see is a project from what we call cradle to grave. So we've got many different many different projects that I'm part of. But specifically for this meeting, the Queens A subdivision, which stretches, I think that James might have talked to you, so I apologize if I'm going to overlap on some information here. But Sophia Street in between Bayfield and Ross, and both Mary and Maple Street between Sophia and Wellington. That's the area that we're doing. So the scope of the work in the neighborhood, it's a full neighborhood reconstruction. So traditionally, when you hear guys or people like me in the industry say reconstruction, what we're talking about is we're talking about storm sewer, sanitary sewer, water main, road, sidewalk, curbs, basically everything under the sun. I've got 5% battery now. It just keeps getting better. Let me know. I apologize if I'm going to drop out here. I'll change phones if I do. So people, when we say reconstruction, that's what we mean is everything in the neighborhood. So how is this going to affect, accessibility around the area? So one of the big things is we bring sidewalk up to what the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, their standards. So the AODA, which I'm sure everybody here is familiar with. So that is one of our objectives, is to make sure that we bring things up to AODA standards. Now, typically what that'll mean for us is in the older subdivisions around Barrie, you'll see 1.2 or 4-foot sidewalk. The minimum requirements now are 1.5 meter sidewalk. So what you're going to see in this area is you're going to see all the sidewalks removed and replaced with proper 1.5 meter sidewalk. The other thing that the city of Barrie does, which is really cool, and
we lost you there for a second, the last 10 seconds of what you said, James.
okay, just a second. I think it's because my computer restarted and my headphones went back to my computer.
Okay.
Just let me. How's this?
You can
Is this
just
okay?
talk. Yeah. We know what your face. We know your face. So if you wanted
There you
to,
are.
you're welcome to do that. You can go offline and just talk. Whatever's easiest and gonna keep you with us longer.
Oh no, that's okay. I haven't been on camera, I think, since I was about 3 years old on Santa's knee with the MCTV. I'm from Sudbury originally, so. So what we've done is, so what you guys are going to see on this job is you're going to see sidewalks being brought up to standard, so 1.5 meter wide sidewalk throughout the neighborhood. We're also introducing a new sidewalk, and You can call it the triangle or the pork chop or whatever terminology you'd like to use, which is in between Mary Street and Ross. There's a little area in there, and it's got what we call a goat path. So what you would kind of see in a farmer's field where goats would follow. So it's what we would consider a soft surface, so not a hard surface like asphalt or concrete. So we're going to add a new section of sidewalk in there. And we're also adding a new section of sidewalk on the south side of Sophia Street. Well, I guess it would extend from Ross all the way to, I'll say almost Bayfield, because there's a section of sidewalk there. So the good news is that on Sophia Street, there's going to be sidewalk on both sides of the road. I'm not sure the classification of Sophia, but it would be considered above what we would call a local road. So your Mary and your Maple would be a local road, which would only require sidewalk on one side in accordance with the city's policies. And I think a lot of that has to do with just how many people are traveling up and down those sidewalks. So that's what you're going to see out there that's new as part of the accessibility. Of course, we're also going to be adding in the tactile walking surface indicators. And in case anybody here is unfamiliar with what those are, they're those steel plates with the little bumps that come up to help with the visually impaired to know when they are about to cross onto a street. So it's a little bit more than what we would have traditionally or in the past, which would have been directional lines to help them out. So as far as the project goes, that's what you're going to see. The asphalt width will stay the same. The introduction of new sidewalks, wider sidewalks. And before I was interrupted by my computer turning back on, one thing I was going to say that's really cool, I think that the city of Barrie does, is that they utilize saw cuts. So what I'll call a saw cut in the sidewalk. So anybody that's in a wheelchair, it really, it would really help reduce that thunk, thunk, thunk that you would feel every 1.5 meters or 5 feet on the sidewalk. So there are still expansion joints that we need to put in. And unfortunately, I don't think that we've got the technology to get away from that quite yet. But with the saw cut.
Oh, we lost you.
Okay.
James, we lost you.
I will strongly thank everyone involved in bringing in saw cuts. They
Really?
are absolutely a game changer and significantly more accessible, particularly with folks who both use wheelchairs and have neurological conditions that are affected by bumps and gadunks, as my daughter calls them. They game changer entirely.
That's really good to hear. Yeah.
So Heather, we were actually the committee that brought that to the new standards. So it was the great work of our staff and this committee that changed the construction standard.
Yeah, I remember being part of that conversation. I just wanted to affirm that yay, verily, does it work? And indeed, it makes life better, because sometimes we don't hear that, full picture come round. But yes, I love it.
We hear about it. We don't hear the results of it, really. We don't hear the practical day-to-day result. And that's really good to hear, Heather. Thank you.
Sorry. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I apologize to everybody for all this back and forth. I appreciate everybody's patience on this for me, but I think this is the last time.
Never say.
Yeah, good. Yeah, fair enough. So I did miss that first little bit. That was basically my spiel, if you want to call it that. Does anybody have any questions or concerns or anything that you want to know? I mean, as it relates to accessibility, I guess, first and foremost, but even the project, I'm okay to chat about that as well.
Sure, Heather.
Yeah, what you missed, James, was me saying how much I appreciate the saw cuts as a wheelchair user. with a neurological condition. They are brilliant, and they're a huge game changer for my daughter, who really, really struggles in her wheelchair with the bumps on the sidewalk. They monumentally improve things, and you just deserve to hear that this is in fact a huge win, not just a theoretical one. My question is in regards to the intersection at Toronto Street and Sophia. Currently there's a little triangular pedestrian space that you cross over a little bit from the southeast corner, and then you stand there. That doesn't seem to be pictured in the new drawing. Is it being brought over? And if not, are there changes being made to the lengths of the light so that we still have long enough for folks who move at a slower speed to be able to cross, which would be my only concern with losing it.
No problem. Okay, so I think that you're referring to, the triangle piece, sort of that Sophia, Mary, and Ross border it. Yeah, so we're not.
No, actually,
sorry.
right at Toronto and Sophia.
Oh, right at Toronto and Sophia.
So right, like more like closer to the like right across from the Victoria Village.
Yes.
Like going towards Parkside Drive, like that weird little dipsy doodle kind of thing there.
And okay, so that's not the one with all the sod in it. It's the one that's concrete or paving stones.
It's paving stones, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Poorly, very buckled paving stones.
Oh, it's awful and needs to be fixed in some ways, but what it provides from an accessibility perspective within its very limited and outdated scope is that it shortens the distance of travel between that southeast corner of the road and the northeast corner, or the southeast and the southwest corner of the road if you're crossing as a pedestrian. So it just brings you a little bit closer. And my concern is just with Victoria Village being right there, a lot of the accessibility is in terms of length of crossing, and how are we addressing that so that we don't have slow moving pedestrians getting caught in the intersection.
So
okay.
Timing of the crossing isn't James. If we ever need to increase the timing at that intersection, we can absolutely do that. And I know our traffic staff have actually increased the time at that location already for seniors living at Victoria Village. Anyway, everything else over to James.
Yeah, so I guess good news and bad news. The scope of the work doesn't go to that island, we can call it. So the good news is it's going to stay there. The bad news is, unfortunately, it's going to stay with the interlock the way it is. And it will not be repaired as part of this work. So we're stopping right at that Sophia and Ross.
So, but if there's an issue, Heather, at that location, we can raise that with our operations group from a minimum maintenance perspective. So they have contracts that they will go through. They, keeping things appropriately functional. So if that is a concern, if that is an issue, then we can raise that with them and they can look into addressing that.
Yeah, my concern with it is just that when you get those uneven cobbles, they become trip hazards, and walkers and manual wheelchair front wheels get caught in them in ways that are potentially risky for folks who are trying to cross the street. So.
Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from on something like that. And I don't mean to sound too, this is the way it is, but that's our scope right now for this project. And, Cheryl, if you want to, address it later, I don't know if there's something we can do as part of this project. I know traditionally we kind of like to keep our scope where it is. But, if there's something we can do as part of this project, I don't know if there's something we can do as part of this project. I know traditionally we kind of like to keep our scope where it is. But But if there's an opportunity to, I'm not too sure exactly how that works, but Cheryl, you can talk to me after this meeting or not, and we can see what we can do, or if it's an operations thing.
I think it might be operations, James. I think
Okay.
I think we like to keep things really clean from a capital perspective. You know, I know in the past, if there's an opportunity, and it makes sense, Kelly Oakley and others have encouraged assuming some operational work in an existing capital project, if there is that nice overlap. But if your project scope is ending there and not including that, then I think we should keep it clean, and we can discuss this with operations is so fantastic for accessibility. Like they work really hard. So if there is an issue, I'm confident that they'll look at fixing that. So yeah.
And that's totally fine with me. I just wasn't clear based on the
Oh,
drawing.
totally. Yeah.
where
No,
that-
it's
Yeah.
a great question. That's a great question. Absolutely.
Yep. No problem. Did anybody else have anything that they wanted to speak with regards to the project here? Be more than happy to answer any other questions. And going once.
It's Louise here. I just wondered, when is it projected to start?
We are anticipating construction starting in 2022. So we are going to we need some utility relocations. So when we say that, we're talking about Bell, Rogers, Enbridge, Hydro. So that work should start in, well, I'm really hoping September, but probably more like December, January. It's nothing major. And then you'll see that area just demolished in 2022. Like it's going to be tough. We do have policies to keep one sidewalk open at a time. And generally speaking, contractors are pretty cognizant of when they're in a busy area to provide access, but it certainly will be limited. So my advice would be avoid it if you can. And if you can't, we'll certainly do what we can to accommodate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
With some of those streets, is there on-street parking?
I don't know offhand, actually. Let me have a quick look.
There is some limited, there is some limited on-street parking in that area. But I don't know how it's reflected in the new parking strategy. I don't know if there are changes to that.
Yeah, that's not to my knowledge. We hadn't seen any comments come back with changing any signage. Okay. So I'm having a look right now just on Google Maps, and it looks like both sides of Sophia are no parking, but I would imagine that there's on-street parking Maple and Mary. And it looks like in the aerial view, there's a car park there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're following the rules. Yeah, so there is 2-hour parking, it looks like, on Mary. And on Maple, I would imagine the same thing, but I might be mistaken here. Let me just have a quick peek. No, it looks like Maple is no parking, at least on the west side. No, on both sides. So there's no parking on Maple, no parking on Sophia, and Mary, there's 2-hour parking there. And there's no plans to change that right now as part of the scope of this project.
You're never going to have a reconstruction project that's like that ever again. Like you'll probably have to deal with parking issues for all future that's pretty perfect. Most reconstruction, you have to juggle parking and sidewalk access. So that's a pretty perfect situation for construction.
Yeah, I thought maybe they just wanted to take it easy on the new guy.
Any other questions? Well, thanks, James and James.
Thank you so much.
Much appreciated. And thanks for working so hard to get to us today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Thank you, everybody, very much for all the patience that you had. And volunteering your time to do things like this. I mean, it's committees like this that are going to help improve how we do our things. And I'm sure that you know that and you see it, but I just thought I'd mention that as well. So thank you guys very much, and having the patience for me today.
Well, thank you, and go out and enjoy your evening now.
Yeah.
I certainly will. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks,
Have a
James.
nice day.
And James,
Take
take
care.
care.
Everyone, have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so we're on to item 2, which is the winter maintenance and accessibility of city walkways. And I see that Jim Harris has joined us.
Yes, excellent.
So,
Hi, good afternoon.
okay, so we received, I know that the rest of you have seen the email that I received from Councillor Harris, and we said that we would discuss the accessibility of city walkways in his constituency, but also in general. I think that's what we're going to do, just have a general conversation about this.
I think it was specific to winter maintenance.
Yes.
So even though now it looks like that's not something for us to concern ourselves with, you should know that the city plans for our winter in July. So,
yeah.
It looks pretty, but it's not so far off from
I was prepared to talk about next winter now.
There you go.
Okay. So, Councillor Harris, can you just give us a little briefing of what you encountered with your constituents? There you are. Hello.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm just hiding here in the background. Thank you. Yeah, for me, it was a call, obviously, from a resident who uses the walkway and to help get to and from school with their children. And the picture tells the story. It's treacherous for anybody, and certainly at many times impassable if you're have mobility concerns. So it just seemed like, wow, I can't believe this hasn't come up, to be honest. I was like, the solution. And I really, what I wanted to also recognize is, I know there's walkways that go from city property to schools, and they may be a bit more complicated for us to manage. However, there's lots of walkways that go from city street to city street. And those, I believe, I understand, obviously, we have full control over and full responsibility for. So at the very least, my hope would be that with the support of the Accessibility Committee, that we could make a request of having those city to city street walkways maintained, such we do with sidewalks. So it's very simple that you maintain the sidewalks. I know I have one down the street from me on Clover Avenue. It goes from Clover to Grand Place. The sidewalk plow goes around Grand Place, and they go around Clover Avenue. Not sure why they couldn't go down the walkway between them. So that was my simple observations. Like, wow, these are made, and they're actually, the walkways are made to make things more accessible and to be able to get easier from A to B. And this is Canada, so for 4 months they really aren't usable for most citizens, and certainly treacherous and unpassable for others. So thanks for listening, and I hope that I look forward to hearing your comments and thoughts on this and maybe your experiences. Thank you.
Well, you know that this is the place to bring things, right?
Yeah, Councillor Thompson said this is the place where things get done. So.
Well, Councillor Thompson is a great help to us. So, so
he told me that too, actually.
Oh, he did. And we never see his face because he's always en route somewhere. So I'm missing if he's smiling now or grimacing. I'm not sure, but okay.
It's all smiles.
He's it's probably a little bit of both. It's probably a little grimace and a smile.
Probably.
His blue eyes are twinkling, and his ivories are bright and shiny right now. So I'm sure he's very happy.
So Cheryl, just a point here. Is Craig the one who will speak to this?
Craig is the one to speak to this. And you guys, Craig has heard. And I've seen some of the things he's received. He does get a lot of messages about our sidewalks, and he works really, really hard. He and his team work really, really hard. So I don't know what the solution is. Certainly, I'm sure Craig will give us some ideas of what's doable and maybe what's not doable. You know, maybe we should start putting glycol in the sidewalks and the recreational trails so that we don't need to shovel in the winter. Like that might be something that we do. I don't know. But I think this is a good conversation to have. But I'm going to suggest that this maybe be one of many, because I don't think we'll solve it today, but perhaps we can have an initial discussion here, Councillor Harris, and then, you know, in maybe a couple of months, come back and start to, you know, have another conversation as Craig's looking at pulling together his budget and things like that. Just because I don't know that we'll come up with a definitive, you know, because I think it's not just Craig, it's like, it's winter maintenance, and currently a lot of those recreational trails that connect neighborhoods don't have winter maintenance, and they're signed as not having winter maintenance.
Right.
And that's a liability thing. So I think that needs to be put on the table too. Like our insurance person has a vested interest in whether or not we maintain those spaces. And I'm not saying this so that you guys say, oh no, we can't do it. I'm just saying it so that you know there's lots of different things, because one of the great things about having a committee like yourselves is you get a bunch of people together with various different perspectives and experiences, and then eureka, suddenly there's an idea that we never thought of before. So, you know, like, just know that there are some things in place currently that kind of speak to why maybe they're not accessible in the winter. Currently doesn't mean they won't be in the future. It just means the current state, there's lots of different variables.
I'm sure there is, and I think it's going to be an education for us as well, because there are so many elements that we don't understand as just regular citizens. So I think it's important for us to understand, so that we can create sort of a foundation and say, here's where we may go next, or here's what we can't do, but can we do this? So this is it's an open discussion, and hopefully we'll come up with some really innovative thing, but it probably won't happen today, and it might not happen within this group. It might be something that comes up in another conversation somewhere in another committee, and we'll all work together on it. So Craig,
I'm rooting for geothermal in our sidewalks.
That would be wonderful.
I'll let Craig take it from here.
Okay.
Thanks, Craig.
Maybe I'll just give you some background. We don't currently maintain any walkways during the winter. We do maintain them during the summer, so we do some vegetation clearing and some cleanup on them. The reason why we don't do winter maintenance is that council has considered this previously, quite a few years back though, I must say, I believe. And so there's a council policy that, and maybe I'll just read it if that's okay, if you're not familiar with it. It says that walkway winter maintenance, that in light of the high cost to provide winter maintenance services on pedestrian walkways, the limited resources available, and the practical difficulties involved in undertaking the work, the City of Barrie will continue its practice to not provide winter maintenance services for pedestrian walkways. So up until now, that's the policy that we've been following. And so currently our budget and our resources are not equipped to provide that service. So, I'm assuming that that policy would have to be amended, and then, a budget increase would be required to carry out that work. So that's kind of the background on it.
And it doesn't mean that that's not possible, folks.
No,
So, like, it just means that it may not happen, in 2021, right? So we're like, so we always plan for and budget for like a year in advance. So as you know, the 2021 budget was approved already, and staff are starting to work in April, May on 2022 budgeting, like forecasting and planning and trying to figure out what they need, right? So this is actually perfect timing, because if this is something that you want to consider amending and you want to explore together, then it's not gonna cause a hardship for things right now, because things right now are already set. So come December 2021, the walkways are going to be cleared. Not at all, because that's not part of the policy that we currently have. But going forward, discussions today and, you know, down the road that you may have may change the way we do things in subsequent years, right? So, you know, like it's something sometimes it's hard for community members to get their head around that, because it's disappointing, right? Because you want it when you want it. But at the same time, I like to try to be hopeful, because if you think about it, this allows us to get all of our ducks in a row, right? To figure out what needs to happen, what support Craig might need, what council might need in order to make a good decision, all those kinds of things. So, Craig, I have a question. What do you see as a barrier to doing routine maintenance of walkways? Do you know how many walkways we currently have in the community?
Yeah, so we have 98 street-to-street walkways. We have about 20 street-to-school walkways, which would probably present some challenges in that if we were to clear those, you're putting pedestrians out potentially into an area that may not be maintained on the school side. So that would have to be considered. We have about 120 other walkways leading into parks, green space, and that kind of thing that we currently don't maintain. And that doesn't include entrances to parks.
Okay.
So I think probably the main concern would be the street-to-street ones. Would probably be the easiest ones to tackle. I guess the challenges that would be involved are related to some of the impediments that exist there. And that would be things like bollards that have been put in place to prevent motorized vehicles from accessing the walkway. They would have to be removed, and then probably new gates put in that are, I guess, configured such that they can be open and closed, so that they'd be open in the wintertime so we could maintain them, and closed during the off season to prevent motorcycles and that kind of thing from going through them. And then I guess, so that would be part of the capital costs. There would be curb cuts involved to allow access from the street.
I want curb cuts everywhere though, so that doesn't bother me.
This is putting rollover curbs.
I know.
And then beyond that, I guess there would be the purchase of some new sidewalk machines in capital, probably 3 to 4 of those. And beyond that,
some staffing costs, probably.
Staffing costs, yes. And then, so because the walkways weren't really designed for winter maintenance, so they're most of them are 2.7 meters wide, so they're not even 10 feet wide. So getting you can get a sidewalk machine through it. However, you have limited snow storage on either side, so the snow would have to be removed at pretty regular intervals somehow, and that would be a bit of a challenge as well. Other additional work would be just in terms of clearing up the winter sand after the winter in the spring. And so currently right now we visit the sidewalks approximately one time per year for maintenance, vegetation maintenance and whatnot. So we'd probably have to double that to make sure that when winter comes, we have all the vegetation cleared back and that kind of thing. And I think that's about covers what the challenges would be. Not that they can't be overcome, it just takes some funding.
Mhm.
I think even potentially there's partnership opportunity with the school board if there are school street to school linkages. I totally appreciate your point, Craig, that we wouldn't want to enter any kind of situation where we are putting a pedestrian in an unsafe area that's not being maintained by the school. So I think that discussion would certainly have to happen. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Our community is changing. And so maybe this is something that we continue to talk about and investigate further, because maybe this is something that we work to make happen. In response to those community changes.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear what others have to say as well, because when I drive through the city now, I see people walking more than I ever have. And it's not just in downtown areas, it's in the South End. There's just a lot of people walking everywhere. The bus system, the transit system is so much different than when I grew up. I grew up in what's South Barrie now. It was Holly. Sorry, my dog's gonna bark for a minute. And we didn't have buses, we didn't have anything. But now that we have buses, people should be able to walk to the bus stop, and whether it's using one of those walkways, they should be able to do it as safely in January as they do in August. That's what I'm thinking. And so I think maybe we do need to figure out a way to make this work or move forward with improvements. That's what I'm thinking. But I'm very interested to hear what everyone else has to say. Heather.
Oh, I think Carolyn had maybe
Carolyn was-
her hand.
Oh, Carolyn, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand there.
It's okay, Catherine, thank you. My question is for you, Craig. Are there other municipalities who offer the winter maintenance?
I can get that information to you. I do believe we did do a survey.
You don't have to answer it right now, Craig, but it's other municipalities have taken this. I was sure they managed it.
Yeah, I believe that the design of the sidewalks is pretty typical for most municipalities, and their approach has been similar. A lot of municipalities haven't been even maintaining sidewalks in some cases. Until recently, there has been a change to the Ontario regulations where sidewalks are to be maintained by the municipality. So I think we're probably ahead of some municipalities in terms of sidewalk maintenance. But I think typically most municipalities don't maintain them, but I can certainly get that information to you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
So I was going to mention one other issue that I think probably would need to be addressed for them to move forward. And that is, as a wheelchair user, I noticed that many of these road to road access points, the asphalt on them is quite, what's the word? It bumps, it moves up and down. It is not smooth.
It's in disrepair. Craig knows because he's involved in repairing those.
Yes.
And yes.
But
I've seen some of those emails that he gets too. So.
But my guess is that for them to be safe for the winter maintenance vehicles, a concerted effort would need to be put into updating and fixing and repairing those, because given that I can't get through many of them with my power wheelchair, I don't think a plow would be able to manage them. So just something else to put on the list. Which does not mean I don't think that they should be done. I think it would make an enormous difference. I was going to add two other points. One is I think given the way that the school boards are really trying to encourage students to walk to school to help mitigate issues with traffic, that there could be a very good case to be made for them to join in with that maintenance on their side.
The walking school bus kind of idea.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that they're certainly within their stated objectives, that would make sense. So I think that that's a partnership that should be encouraged. And then the third thing I was just going to mention is I wanted to say, within the scope of this conversation, the work that is done by the city currently to maintain the paths around the waterfront is exceptional, and is not something I see in almost any other community. And the one point that would increase that is if all of the access from the road was taken care of, so that you could enter at every road access, particularly along the north shore of Kempenfelt Bay. Some of those happen and some of them don't. I have been caught a couple of times because I stubbornly tried to get on and then had to wait until someone took pity on me. But that's on me, not on you. But I just want to say how much of a difference it makes to myself as a wheelchair user and to so many others with mobility issues to have a spot outside, to be able to get outside during the winter and move. It is enormously significant to mental health and well-being. And so as we think about expanding that, I think seeing it as an expansion of what we are already doing as a community and the ways in which we are already excelling as a community in this access may be an important way of framing the conversation, because I really do think it's an area of excellence that Barrie can be very proud of.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing feedback, Heather.
Yeah,
that's so lovely, so lovely of you to share that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, and Craig, I'm sorry, but I'm sure that you get more complaints than you do compliments.
I think he probably does. Because as I said, I've heard and seen some of the things that he gets. So thank you for sharing that, Heather. That's really positive.
Heather, that's just terrific. Yes, and I would venture to say I'd echo that, because I know the sidewalk team. They're awesome, and they're also personable. And I'll say this because I've seen situations where my neighbor, my 80-year-old neighbor, has just done his driveway, and the sidewalk plow comes along and kind of gives him a little nod and goes, it's okay, I'm not going to leave the windrow for you. Or I've seen situations where they've actually picked up the windrow and moved it. So, kudos to your team.
Yeah, thank you. I think that sometimes they do get some negative feedback, and comments like that we like to pass along, because it certainly helps bolster their, some of their feelings about the work that they do, and their job satisfaction out there. So they do take a lot of care in their work, for sure. Thank you.
Catherine, I think Councillor Thompson had something to his hands up, and same with Councillor Harris.
Yes, I see that now. Okay, I'm not sure who was first. I'll go with Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Just a question to Craig. When you mentioned the curb cut at the end of the walkways, would that really be necessary? Because as you exit the catwalk, you have municipal sidewalks, so you would just turn left or right. By putting a curb cut, you'd have to dig up the boulevard and, provide sidewalk, which would then invite people to cross in an unsafe manner. So you would actually maintain on the city sidewalk. And couldn't it just be added to the actual existing sidewalk route? So they go down, they cut into the catwalk, they pick up the other side and they come back around. So actually, like, the capital investment wouldn't be necessary unless your sidewalk piles are running at their maximum hours as it is now, right? So like, you have your arterials, your secondaries, your side streets where the catwalks would be maybe on your third go around, which, like on weekends, people aren't as out walking to school and stuff like that. But I think we've got to maybe concentrate more on what we can do than the barriers that allow it, right? And yeah, there's some that are in disarray just due to the overgrowth of roots from backyard. It is flex pavement, so they're not concrete, so they actually, they bulge and then the roots come through the asphalt. But I think we actually have more of a liability by not maintaining them nowadays with the slip and falls. So I think it's in, like, Ward 5 has quite a few up in the top end from like Chaucer, Christie, and some of them are not straight runs. So yes, I understand the articulated machines in there would be extremely difficult, but I think the ones that go street to street on a straight run would be an added maybe 5 to 6 minutes to a route. I can't see it being a barrier, but I think we got to concentrate more on what we can do than the barriers of not being able to do them.
And perhaps the policy amendment includes just some of your comments, Councillor Thompson. Perhaps it includes a maintenance level for weekdays that's different than maintenance levels on weekends, given that walking to and from school isn't necessarily going to happen. Lots of great ideas.
I think also there's got to be a conversation whether the catwalk model actually works in this day and age, because in some of the neighborhoods, the catwalks are actually where misbehaved teens hang out, and they become very disruptive to the neighbors who live adjacent to them. So, there might be a conversation where we close them off, or we extend property lines with, residents the option to purchase the catwalk and move their lot over or something like that. I understand that we're trying to make cities more walkable and accessible and stuff, but when you go into some of the catwalks, they're not accessible or walkable because of the behaviors that are going on in them. And, you go and you see little dog poop bags tied to chain link fences, like it's a memorial for something, but, so I think there's a lot of conversations we can have, but if they're there, I think we've got to really look at a way that we can extend, like, I understand like windrow cleaning's another one, but I understand the costs associated to that because specialty equipment and just our lot sizes, where they do it in Toronto, it's due to the lot size and, the space between properties and storage for snow, but that's all.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Harris.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I recognize that much of the responsibility for this, if it was to be actualized, would be that of council, including, accepting the added cost of doing this. And I agree with Councillor Thompson. I think that, and I'm just going by common sense, the one that by my house, I can walk it in 10 seconds. So I'm pretty sure the sidewalk machine could manage to get down it in a very short period of time. I'm thinking the number of kilometers that are added across the whole city would be rather manageable. So I'm thinking the cost wouldn't be, on some respects, wouldn't be horrible, but there would be a cost. My other comment generally, and thanking you for taking on this issue and having it on your agenda for today, is really, I could easily put a motion forward to council to, maintain these city street walkways in the winter, I could make that motion. It may win or it may fail at council. But what's more important to me is that to consult with this group about, is it important to you? Do you feel as accessibility leaders in our community that this should, if it's available to me to walk down, now I know we trudged through it in the wintertime and I know the sense about liability, but I sent the picture got shared that I sent. People are using it. You can tell by how packed it is and how it became icy, because in the spring you get those thaws and then you get the freeze and it becomes a dangerous ice patch. People are still using it anyway, because we haven't put barriers on it such that you can't walk down it. So if some lawyer is going to say, well, you didn't make it unpassable, so therefore I'm still going to sue you because I could still get down the path. So I'm not really buying the argument of the legal side of it, because our liability still exists. I'm no lawyer, but Councillor Thompson is, so he could probably give better advice on that. But I would say, so I just really, the most important part for me is the understanding that if we have these catwalks open and they're usable for our communities, do you feel from an accessibility that we should then make the same effort as we do for sidewalks to maintain it such that all residents can use that cut through that has been, I grew up on on Jonathan Court, and the catwalk was beside my house, Jonathan Court to Davidson Street. And they used to be designed with grass on each side, probably because that allowed for it to be maintained in the wintertime. I understand now that they're just, concrete slabs that go down, or tarmac slabs that go down, and there's no grass on the side, reduces maintenance because we're always trying to cut costs. I get it. But, there was function, that walkway being there. And, a busier walkway is a safer walkway, quite frankly. So anyway, that's really what I, from your perspective, you can let the city staff and the city council worry about the costs and the how to, but I'd really love to know if this is important to you. I'd be really happy to bring it forward, hopefully with Councillor Thompson's support, to bring it forward to council to see if we can get these opened and safe for everybody. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl, I know we have Marie ready to speak. Are you making a point on?
So I was just going to suggest, thank you, Councillor Thompson and Councillor Harris. I think the motion needs to be an exploration of the whole this walkway system, like to Councillor Thompson's point, from a crime deterrence perspective, all that kind of stuff. Like perhaps the motion, and maybe there's two motions, maybe we as a committee can help you with that. Maybe we can do a motion to explore changing what we're currently doing to see if what we're doing and have been doing for the last 26 years needs to continue, or if we need to change it up, or shake things up, and then maybe there's a separate motion following that about keeping these walkways open. One of the comments, I don't know if you were part of it, if you kind of came into the discussion earlier, but one of the comments that James Black made when he was talking about the Queen's Park reconstruction was the fact that there's this goat path that they're going to be adding a whole stretch of sidewalk on. And the reason why they're doing that is because they've recognized over time that people are walking here. So there's no sidewalk, but people walk there anyway. So to both of your points, people are walking on these walkways, even though there is no winter maintenance. So we've kind of evolved with this sidewalk where we're looking at this and saying, like, from an engineering perspective, he's saying this isn't where I would want to put the sidewalk normally, but people are walking there anyway, so that's where we're going to put it. Mm-hmm. So if people are walking on these walkways anyway in the winter, and to your point, that is a continued liability, even if we sign it to say that we have no winter maintenance, then I think this whole issue needs a greater discussion. And so maybe there's an opportunity here for this committee to help you, advance that motion. But I'll leave that for now, and we'll get some guidance from Tammy perhaps, but I kind of jumped the queue. It's Marie's turn, sorry.
Yes, it is Marie's turn.
I think Heather can probably jump in on this too about how useful she finds the catwalks there. I know Cheryl, you and I we met on one. So I use a manual wheelchair as well as crutches or a cane to get around. I think there's a case for reimagining the catwalks. I think it would have to be part of more of a sort of a holistic review of them, because I honestly, whoever mentioned how convoluted the tarmac and stuff is, like, I think we would have to look at probably doing them in concrete like a sidewalk. We probably would want to perhaps even look at, I know that they've got new types of lighting that goes down as opposed to going out so much. So we might want to even look at lighting them to deal with the issues of young people and visibility and safety. So I think those are important, because I honestly think if we just did winter maintenance on them as they stand right now, I don't think you could get very good quality winter maintenance. So I don't think that, at least as if I was to take out my manual chair, which I don't do in the winter a lot, it needs really good winter maintenance to be at all useful to me. So I think in order to get to that point, a lot of other steps would have to come first. And in terms of things that would actually significantly improve my life, I think I would, at least for me, I get out more in the summer, and I'd rather see, we still have, at least in my area, a fair few of these catwalks that aren't paved at all and are just dirt still. So I'd rather see those come up a few more steps. That's just my own preference. But maybe some people have to get around in all seasons.
Thank you, Marie. Heather?
Yeah, just to Councillor Harris's question about accessibility and its benefits. I would say two things. One, there is definitely a level of access that does make a difference. I mean, just because you use a wheelchair or have mobility issues doesn't mean you don't need to have the quickest path from where you are to where you are trying to go. And what these walkways do is they achieve a quick path. So I have a progressive condition, which means that there was a time when I was walking with my children. Then there was a time when I was walking with canes and crutches with my children, trying to get them to school. When winter hit, I suddenly had to go the long way around. And all of a sudden, what was an almost manageable task became an almost Herculean task, simply because of the additional steps required to access getting them to school. So I think what might be really beneficial, further to Councillor Thompson's comment, is to do a bit of research, do a bit of a survey of the walkways that we have. Where do they connect between? How does that relate to our bus system? How does that relate to where our schools are? And sort of prioritize which ones may be most beneficial, what condition different ones are in, because I think there may be ones that, maybe they have served their purpose and they would be best decommissioned, but I definitely think that there are others that from an access point of view, and I could point to ones in both Ward 10 and Ward 1, because I've lived in both wards, would be phenomenally improving the situation in terms of access. So I think that there definitely is value in moving forward to it, but I think that value needs to be strategic and not, as Marie says, come at the expense of the access that is continued to be needed in the summertime and the the non-winter wonderland that we so wonderfully get to experience every year.
Heather or Marie, would you like to put a motion on the floor, directing staff to investigate exactly what you're talking about, and perhaps that might assist Councillor Harris eventually in getting this addressed? Like,
I can do that if it's helpful. Tammy, you often wordsmith these motions for us so that we get all the words right. Do you have one sitting there?
I don't today, but
let's first ask Councillor Harris. Councillor Harris, would that be helpful for you? Because I think this is an amazing discussion. And as I said, when I prefaced this discussion, I don't think it's something that we're going to solve today, but I think it's something that we're very open to having over time, because access in all its guises are really important to this group. So if that would be helpful, then we have some people who can support you with that.
he's not there.
Oh.
Councillor Harris?
I have that effect on people.
Well, I think that would be helpful. And I think it needs to be an ongoing discussion. Carolyn?
Nope.
You're muted.
You're muted. We can't hear you, Carolyn.
Here, this is a comment to the committee in general. I walk every day, and I do a different walk every day, and I have encountered these pedestrian walkways, and they are lethal, whether you have 2 functioning legs or not, or in a wheelchair or something. They are lethal. So in my opinion, I think something needs to be done. I don't know about decommissioning or anything like that. And it actually, Craig, your indication of, 98 walkways, 120 others, this was so new information to me. I had no idea that it involved so much. But I do feel that it needs to go further and be investigated, but not just by the accessibility committee. I think you said, Cheryl, we need to pull in recreation. The city is encouraging people to walk, to be active. And this would be another way to encourage the citizens to do so.
Absolutely. So a motion that you put forward would be something like, that the Accessibility Advisory Committee encourages staff to investigate the feasibility of improving our walkways for accessibility, for summer and winter maintenance and use. You could put something in there about investigating the feasibility of continuing the policy, or you could put in something about investigating the utility of the walkway system in general as we have it. There are other committees of council, advisory committees of council that would be probably interested in supporting such a motion as well. There's the Seniors Advisory Committee, as well as the Active Transportation and Sustainability Committee, which has a member from the Public Health Unit on that committee that is a big advocate for the walking school bus program. She's a nurse, Sherry Diaz. So there are a number of people that and other committees that could get involved and support that, and staff would in that charge, in that ask, they would reach out to all the people that you're mentioning, Carolyn. They would reach out to recreation. If recreation had a voice, they would reach out to maintenance. They would reach out to forestry if there was concerns with shrubs and things like that. Like, so that could be something that could be all encompassing. But just to be clear, like if we're asking staff to look into this, it's not something that's going to be completed quickly. Like this would be a long range kind of thing that they're investigating. But it would be good information, because what we're going to be doing ultimately would be asking council to amend the policy that they created. And there may not be any capital costs, but immediately there may not be any immediate capital costs, but it would be a change in business. And they need to look at that and consider all the elements. So I think it's like, I don't think any of these barriers are things that are, are a done deal. But I think to everyone's point here, I think everyone's had really great points. There's lots of things to consider, so we don't want to encourage winter maintenance and lose summer quality. We don't want to, encourage have winter maintenance and encourage deleterious behavior by, individuals who are, sabotaging, or, we don't want to encourage that. So these are things that all have to be considered. And it wouldn't be an easy task. It's one more thing on the laundry list to do, right? But that's okay. Like, that's why that's why we're here to support you, to look at these things.
Louise would like to make a point.
Well, I see that Heather was madly writing there, but I was just going to say that I think just to keep the perspective that we're the accessibility committee, and that first of all, we really want to promote accessibility in this area. And I don't know, Heather, maybe we can see, I think Heather's been writing. I saw her pen moving. Are you writing a motion, or you're drafting a motion? Okay. Turn it over to her.
I think it is important that we do this, Heather, and everyone else. I think it's important that we do this as our committee and encourage other committees to take a similar tack. And, when we have all of the information that we need, I think, it's possible that we may have things that we want to eliminate. But at the same time, I think this is a really good opportunity for us to all move forward as a city, to create something that is, super accessible and well used. And, if there are usage issues, let's figure that out too. Heather, sorry, I just wanted to sort of preface, I think, what you're going to say.
No, that's great, Catherine. I do have a draft of a motion. So please, by all means, add your feedback to it. But in light of what we've said, a motion requesting that staff investigate the current interconnected walkway system in Barrie in light of questions regarding safety and accessibility concerns through facilitation of both summer and winter maintenance to increase pedestrian access year-round. I think those are the bits, but that might not be the right way to say it, because I've never drafted one of these before for us. But after 2 years on the committee, I think it's worth trying.
That's really good. That's really good. That's good. Really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tammy can, she can massage it, I like to say, so that it comes out sounding clerky.
It sound good.
So, yes.
And maybe what we'll do is we'll add to report back to the Accessibility Advisory Committee. And so that way it keeps the conversation live here with the committee.
Can we somehow encourage other committees to have the same discussion we just had? I'm thinking with
I think what I can do, just so that we don't have the motion to be really we don't want to muddy the motion, but what I can do is I can once we have the motion, I can send it to the Seniors Advisory Committee and send it to the Active Transportation and Sustainability Committee and let them know that you've made this motion, and maybe what they can do. Sometimes what's happened in the past is members of those committees have sat in on our committee if we've had presentations from staff, or vice versa. But also if they feel it's interesting for their mandate, because they all have different mandates, then they can table it at their committee and have a conversation about, exploring this as well or supporting this as well. Okay, now I see that Councillor Harris has his hand up. I'm thinking he's going to say, but what about our winter maintenance? Councillor Harris?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say actually thank you. I think the motion that Heather put forward was wonderful. And yeah, I think I heard that it included year round, really. And I think it was Heather who said that I got this right. Even currently, some of the bollards in walkways keep you from using the walkway year round, which is really awful to hear. So there's more effort to be done here than just the winter maintenance, unfortunately, but glad we've captured this. So yeah, I think the motion's great. It really gives council, the weight that it needs to move this forward. And I really can't think that when this hits the floor at council, I'm getting ahead of myself, that it won't get full support to have the report done to see how these walkways can be made safer and more usable for all citizens. So, and through the full season in Barrie. And I grew up beside a walkway, as I told you, and people didn't congregate there in the wintertime. We were in Barrie, it's cold in January, February. The kids hang out in the summertime when they're not in school. That's when the walkways get to be a problem, in my humble opinion and with my history. So I will say I have to go. So once I thank you everybody for taking this item forward and for the discussion you've given it. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to a recommendation coming forward on behalf of Councillor Thompson to the council and supporting it. So thank you again.
Well, and Councillor Harris, thank you so much for bringing it forward. We wouldn't be having this conversation, at least at this point. So this gives us something to work towards. So thank you. Much appreciated.
My pleasure. Thanks again, everybody.
Okay. So we have the motion that will move forward, and Tammy's going to massage it a little bit and send it around to us.
Heather, can you send me that information? Just
sorry, first we have to.
I think Heather first has to say it again, just how in her draft,
okay.
Pre-massage. And then you guys have to agree to it or not agree to it.
Right. That's right. Okay.
And then we can move forward. Yes.
Okay. I thought we might agree to it after it was massaged, but we do it now. Right.
Yeah.
We get the context of it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so like if she's massaged, like when Tammy and the clerk Wendy massage it, it's really semantic, right? Yeah. It's so that it meets, like, they're not going to change the intent of your words. They're just going to make it sound more
clerky.
Clerky, yeah.
Okay, Heather, would you like to put forward that motion?
I would like to put forward a motion requesting that staff investigate the current interconnected walkway system in Barrie in light of questions regarding safety and accessibility concerns through facilitation of both summer and winter maintenance to increase overall pedestrian access year-round, and that staff report back to the Accessibility Advisory Committee with their findings.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
We're getting thumbs up. Louise,
I'll second
okay, you second the motion? Okay. All in favor? Great. Good stuff. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And Craig, thank you for your input and your information. We always look forward to learning new things.
I'm in favor. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Robert. can see you there. You're Mr. Invisible. I apologize. Oh my goodness. Okay. So we're good. Craig, thank you.
Thank you so much,
appreciated.
Craig. We really
Thank you.
appreciate
Yeah,
you.
we really appreciate the information.
Anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
We need to get a little picture of Councillor Thompson so that we can actually see him there. Okay. Item 2.2, the National Accessibility Week.
This is going to be really short and sweet because I don't have any new information since I last spoke to you. I'm still gathering stuff. I spoke to our former clerk, John Sisson, and I got some good information from him, some anecdotal information from him, which was lovely. And I have an agreement from the communication staff to work with me on creating our timeline and stuff, and little snippets of information because it's going to be virtual because let's face it, this is the world we live in right now, but that's okay. So as I have something to share with you, what I might do is I might send you guys emails with that information. And then when we next meet, it'll be the week, the National Accessibility Week. Well, we'll meet actually before it. We'll meet early in the month. And we're going to have some staff presentations on other things. So we'll have a conversation about it, but the hope would be to have council proclaim the week, and that usually happens at the beginning of the week. And then every day throughout that week, we'll have something on social media about City of Barrie accessibility. And I'm learning some pretty neat things. So I think you'll enjoy it. I'm also going to make sure I share it internally with staff. Yes, Heather.
Will there be some sort, or is it possible to create some sort of page on the city website that is their longer term that covers all of the pieces? Because I feel like there's no way we're going to get all of the history.
And I love that idea, and I'm working with our communications and marketing staff about it, but they haven't got back to me. Like, they've got back to me to say, yes, we'll work with you, but we haven't actually met yet because they're very busy with other things. But definitely that's something like that's super possible. So I think I'm going to say yes, very tentatively, but yes, right? Okay. Yeah. All right. If I was the one that I'm not smart enough to program on the computer like that, but yes, I think we'll have something like that. So very short and sweet update. Yeah, I think you guys will like the tidbits that I'm learning. It's interesting.
And then my other question was, I know from our conversation last time that any conversation with reporters and like Barrie Today and Simcoe Today and stuff needs to go through the city.
Yeah.
Is it possible for us to do something through the city for that?
They totally will. Like, so yes. Yeah. So they if we have things to share, they do that on a regular basis. And in the past, for National Accessibility Week, we have had stuff that we've shared with them and they've taken it and run with it. But it just depends on what else is happening in the world and in the city on that day, because we have, like, we always share, but if somebody's gonna, rob a bank that day, National Accessibility Week is not going to be the thing that they run with, So I remember I was in the paper once for National Accessibility Week, and I was so mad because I was like, what else? Why? Like, what's going on? Like, there should be more things to do. And I'm not saying that they're like that National Accessibility Week isn't cool and interesting and great, but don't focus on me. Focus on like our committee and other things. So
And we have to focus on the stories. Focus on the stories.
Exactly. So this is this meeting today is a good, good story meeting. So for example, like I would highlight to the newspaper or to anyone who is interested that there are changes that are happening in our community that are because of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. As Councillor Thompson, I'm sorry. I always want to call you by your first name, and I know I shouldn't do that. As Councillor Thompson mentioned, our sidewalks are the way they are, and we get lots of compliments on our sidewalks because of this committee. The reconstruction, the changes to the Queen's Park area, very focused on accessibility. And it's because this committee has influenced that staff group and the legislation that they're following. The discussion with Councillor Harris about his constituent concerns, and then just re-examining the way we have our entire recreational walkway system. That's something that's being supported from this committee. So to me, that's the story. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I just another thought I had about the media kit and everything that's going to be created.
It's not going to be a media kit.
Okay, not going to be a media kit.
No, we do what we do. We send a message to all of our local media, like our marketing people have a list of contacts, and they will send a note to everybody to say, hey, check this out. And if they're interested, they'll come back and they'll say, hey, I want to interview someone about that. And then I'll say, hey, Catherine and Heather and Marie and Carolyn and Louise would love to talk to you. That's what I'm going to say. But there's no media kit. Like it's just the city does things all the time, and we invite the media to share that or be part of that. But there's no media kit.
Okay. Another question I had, I'm just thinking of all of the work that's been done downtown and as part of the downtown streetscape.
Yep.
And I thought I'm thinking of sort of cross promotion. I work with some of the BIA people, and I'm thinking, again, I don't want to overstep my boundaries, but can I get the word out to Kelly, let's say, at the BIA, and just say, hey, it's National Accessibility Week.
Absolutely, totally can. Yeah.
So that's okay.
Yeah,
all right.
totally.
I just don't want to overstep. I don't want to step on anybody.
So what we're not allowed to do as city staff,
go to reporters,
as city staff or members of council or members of like the advisory committee, we're not supposed to go to Barry 360 or whatever and say, hey, I got a story for you. What we do is we tell our media people in City Hall, we say, hey, we have a story for the media, and then they share that with their contacts.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, totally. Right. But bringing awareness to National Accessibility Week, because we don't own that week. You can talk about it to whomever. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that because I think it's possible that the BIA would like to do something or
that
share
would be awesome. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And I think it's good for so many different groups if we cross promote. So
yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
So that's it. That's all.
Okay, that's it. Any other comments, questions, complaints, criticisms, kudos? I'm just going with the K sound. Congratulations to everyone for getting through another meeting. Yay, virtually. Thank you, Tammy, for organizing it, and Cheryl. Councillor Thompson, thanks for joining us, even though we can't see you.
I've got a face for radio, so it's probably better. Take care.
Well, you have a voice for radio, but face for radio, I don't know. And anything else before we adjourn? Okay, thanks everybody.
I do have one question. Sorry, no, Councillor Thompson, do you have any concerns with the motion that we put forward to look at the walkway issue a little bit more holistically than just winter maintenance?
I'm totally, no, like I said, I liked Heather's motion. I don't know if you heard me, but I said I approved of it in the vote. So, yeah.
Okay, good.
But thank you for asking.
Thank you, because we need that guidance from you. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. Get out and enjoy a few minutes of this lovely weather, and we'll see you next month. Take care, everyone.
Have a good meeting.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody, for your great comments.